In this podcast episode, Ben Shapiro and Michael Knowles engage in a wide-ranging conversation that touches on religion, politics, conspiracy theories, cultural phenomena, and personal anecdotes. The dialogue explores the nuances of Catholicism versus Protestantism, American political loyalties, perspectives on major conspiracy theories such as Jeffrey Epstein's death, opinions on cultural debates like banning TikTok, and even their experiences with media appearances. Along the way, the hosts reflect on faith, identity, and contemporary social issues, highlighting their differing yet complementary viewpoints. The episode opens with a playful and insightful discussion about the differences between Catholicism and Protestantism, particularly through the lens of religious rituals and cultural identity. Michael Knowles explains how Catholicism parallels Judaism more closely than Protestantism does, especially regarding the importance of ritual and hierarchy. He elaborates on the historical context and theological nuances, such as the relationship between faith and works, emphasizing that Catholicism retains many ritualistic elements familiar to Judaism, while Protestantism tends to strip these away in favor of faith alone. Ben Shapiro reflects on the challenges of religious conversion and what might motivate someone to choose one branch of Christianity over another. Both point out that conversion involves much more than rejecting rituals. It is fundamentally a matter of belief in the divinity of Jesus and the theological implications thereof. They also touch on the shared cultural references and humorous moments, such as Michael meeting the Pope and exchanging a signed White Sox baseball, underscoring the personal connections that can transcend religious differences. The conversation moves into the complex dynamics of loyalty among Americans who maintain strong religious identities. Knowles and Shapiro discuss the common accusation of dual loyalty, particularly concerning Catholics' loyalty to the Vatican versus the United States. They dismantle this claim by distinguishing between spiritual loyalties and national allegiances, explaining that these layers of identity coexist without conflict for most people. They critically assess the historical context in which anti-Catholic sentiments flourished in American politics, referencing the JFK campaign and broader cultural prejudices from the 19th century through much of the 20th century. The hosts delve into the pluralistic nature of identity in modern nation-states and question the rigid nationalist frameworks that often fail to accommodate the complexity of individual faith commitments. A lighter but culturally significant topic discussed is the practice of American politicians kissing the Western Wall in Jerusalem. Michael Knowles explains that this is not a Jewish requirement, but rather a symbol strongly embraced by evangelical Protestants as a political and religious gesture. He contrasts this with Catholic traditional practices, which emphasize other holy sites over the Western Wall. The discussion highlights how political gestures often cater to specific religious constituencies and how rituals become tools of identity and diplomacy rather than religious obligations. Shifting gears, the episode considers the contemporary cultural debate about banning TikTok versus banning fentanyl to save lives. The discussion reveals contrasting perspectives, one emphasizing the real, immediate harm caused by fentanyl, notwithstanding existing bans, and the other focusing on the broader, less tangible but pervasive spiritual and cultural damage caused by TikTok and similar social media platforms, especially given their Chinese government ties and addictive algorithms. They debate the potential impact of banning TikTok on American culture and mental health versus the practical limitations, acknowledging that users might simply migrate to other platforms. This segment reflects their broader concern for cultural integrity amid technological challenges and questions about effective governance. Both hosts share their experiences with the streaming debate show Surrounded, describing its high-pressure environment and the challenges that come with engaging opponents who sometimes behave aggressively or unpredictably. They analyze the power dynamics in such media settings, where disruptions or identity-related hesitations can tip the balance of conversation and perception. Despite some unpleasant moments, both enjoyed the intellectual exercise and recognized the show's reflection of current polarized discourse on social media. One of the more humorous and critical portions engages with conspiracy theories, specifically the moon landing hoax and rumors about British political figures. Shapiro and Knowles dismiss moon landing denial as implausible, emphasizing the geopolitical impossibility of faking such an event under Soviet scrutiny and celebrating America's achievement. They contrast this with the modern cultural acceptance of transgender identities, wryly noting how beliefs about gender have become highly politicized and debated. The conversation critiques contemporary gender politics, court cases, and public discourse, highlighting the complexities and contradictions in legal and societal recognition of transgender issues. They caution against overly simplistic or conspiratorial thinking, advocating for nuanced understanding. The hosts engage deeply with the Jeffrey Epstein saga, addressing theories about his death and the surrounding controversies. They acknowledge the murkiness and contradictions in the official narratives, such as tampered surveillance footage and unanswered questions surrounding Epstein's suicide. However, both express skepticism of grand conspiracy theories involving high-level cover-ups, stressing the improbability of widespread collusion. The discussion includes reflections on government transparency, intelligence operations, plea deals, and the human fallibility behind institutional actions. The hosts criticize the appeal of conspiracy theories as often rooted in a desire to believe in secret cabals that control fate, which diminishes personal agency and distorts political reality. In a philosophical and ethical exchange, Shapiro and Knowles debate the impact of AI-generated pornography versus traditional pornography. They grapple with the moral and social implications of both, noting how AI porn could exacerbate problems by detaching fantasy from reality even further and enabling deeply disturbing content without human involvement. Yet, they recognize that real porn involves direct harm to participants, especially women exploited in the industry. The discussion touches on how technology disrupts social norms and personal well-being, and how the decline of traditional porn could paradoxically affect the livelihood of many involved, while underscoring the broader harms associated with the commodification of sexuality. Toward the end of the episode, the hosts talk candidly about discussing death with children. They share personal anecdotes about their own kids, exploring how to balance honesty with hope when facing fundamental realities like mortality. This intimate segment reveals their grounding in religious perspectives, where death is treated as both a harsh truth and a transition within a larger spiritual narrative. Their reflections underscore the challenges parents face in communicating complex theological and existential ideas in age-appropriate ways, weaving in humor and warmth throughout. In their final topic, the hosts confront the idea of supporting a potential third presidential term for Donald Trump if the Constitution allowed it. Shapiro expresses cautious optimism regarding Trump's pragmatism and ability to unify factions within conservative politics, valuing his break from orthodox ideology and willingness to challenge established norms. Knowles shares his principled opposition to the 22nd Amendment, favoring electoral accountability over term limits and emphasizing the mixed regime intentions of the American political system's framers. Both acknowledge Trump's significant impact on American politics, with nuanced hopes and reservations about the future leadership landscape. Amid the weighty discussions, lighter moments shine through as Michael Knowles recounts meeting Pope Francis and the humorous exchange involving a signed White Sox baseball. This anecdote symbolizes the intersection of personal faith, cultural identity, and friendship, illustrating how religious and political figures sometimes share unexpected common ground beyond doctrinal or ideological divisions. The story humanizes the hosts and reminds listeners of the relational aspects behind public personas and ideological debates.